Hello and welcome to Health and Lifestyle, where we talk all matters health, bringing you real life stories and doctors to break down some of the conditions that we'll be covering for you. My name is Mariambo, and at KBC Channel 1 on X is where to interact with us. Let's talk about something that's not always easy to talk about, and that is abortion. In Kenya, abortion is only legally allowed in very specific situations, like when the mother's life or health is in danger or in cases of rape or incest. But even with those tight restrictions, a recent study by the African Population and Health Research Center, that is the APHRC, is revealing just how widespread abortion actually is. I will bring you details in this particular program. Coming up in the program,
there are those done by wires, sharp wires, done by sticks, done by hangers, done by broken bottles, jig, and so on and so forth.
How common is abortion and who's affected?
Contraception will avoid pregnancy.
Why we need to talk about contraceptives. And to our first segment, according to the African Population and Health Research Center, APHRC, the Ministry of Health and the Guttmacher Institute, nearly 793,000 induced abortions happened in Kenya in 2023 alone. Kenneth Juma is the Senior Research Officer at the African Population and Health Research Center, and he explains.
That's a huge number. Remember, in 2012, when the last study like this was done, the numbers were about 464,000. So there's almost been a doubling of those numbers. And the question sometimes is why abortions are occurring. At the same time, we've noticed that unintended pregnancies that are normally the drivers of abortions have somehow reduced. In 2012, we had about a rate of about 120 unintended pregnancies per 1,000 women of reproductive age. This time round, we have about 103 unintended pregnancies per 1,000 women of reproductive age. Now, those are just numbers, but the key message is that the unintended pregnancy has reduced. When we looked at severity of complications, about 17% of women suffered either death or life-threatening complications that were very severe and that without management or care would actually result in death or something worse.
But what's even more surprising, around 78.6% were by women in stable relationships. Most of these women fall within the 24 to 34 age bracket. About 41.8%, with 15.6% being women over 35 and 13.6% being adolescents under 20. So it's not just the teens or single women dealing with unplanned pregnancies. It's women in committed relationships, often already raising children.
The key information there is that all women of diverse social demographic groups, the educated versus the uneducated, the learned versus unlearned, those married and unmarried, Muslims versus Christians, those that have children and those without children, everyone seeks abortion, depending on their personal circumstances, because it's a very personal decision. However, we also note that among the married women, there is also abortion occurring. It's only that in the subset of our population, sometimes we tend to have much older women. By older women, I mean we have more women above the age of 20. So when you classify this group of women, you will find that those who are married officially and those who are just living with their boyfriends are very many, okay? So that is how that proportion comes about. But it does not mean, by any sense, that it is the married that are having more abortions. Every woman has abortions, yes. When you look at our data, it's all women of all reproductive ages. We had about 13% of adolescents. But it's because adolescents who are giving birth, or we include in our study, were only between 15 and 19. So because that's a very small age group, you will have a smaller proportion of them. But then when you look at the ages of 20 to 29, that's a huge group. again, 29 to 30 or 35, that's a huge group. So you tend to get more and more of those groups of people. But then for adolescents, who will also most likely be the unmarried, okay, they then will be few between age 15 to 19.
The reasons behind these abortions tell an even more complex story. Many women said they simply couldn't afford to have another child. Others mentioned career goals or just not feeling ready, that is physically, emotionally, or even financially, to expand their families.
Abortions rise because, one, community-wide or nationally or even regionally, there's a pressure to have fewer and fewer children. But sex has not reduced, right? So the pressure to have fewer and fewer children is pushing women towards having fewer children. In that context, if you do not have access to contraceptives, you will become pregnant, but then you want to do away with that pregnancy one way or another. Number two is that there's also the demographic pressure around delaying fertility. Okay? So our mothers gave birth, began giving birth at 18, 19, 20, 21. Our age, we begin giving birth at 26, 27, 28, 29, sometimes even 30, even 35, okay? When I begin giving birth at 35, I only have a small window there to give birth to 1 or 2 or 3, and then I'm closing that door. But our mothers had from 18 all the way to 49, you have room to as many children as possible. So all these factors are driving abortions.
These reasons point to larger systemic issues like poverty, unequal access to healthcare, and limited family planning services.
Yes, kudos to Ministry of Health, who have widely expanded access to contraceptives, modern and effective contraceptives, and also the counties, so that it's available to a lot of women who are in need of preventing a pregnancy that they do not want. So it has somehow reduced unintended pregnancies, which is good. However, abortion rates have still risen, meaning that there's still a gap in terms of improving access to contraceptives, especially to young people who are unmarried, sometimes in school, sometimes adolescents.
Now, here's where it gets especially worrying. Because abortion access is so limited by law and often clouded by stigma, many women turn to unsafe abortion methods. According to the APHRC's findings, a huge number of these abortions are performed under risky conditions using unsafe substances and techniques.
There are those done by wires, sharp wires, done by sticks, done by hangers, done by broken bottles, jig, and so on and so forth. And again, another 8% use less harmful methods. So, because when you drink a soda, when you drink conch juice, when you drink alcohol, it will not terminate a pregnancy, but some women thought it would terminate. So, yeah, that's sort of the landscape, and that is the reason why there's a shift in severity of complications to less severe. So, majority of women have more mild complications. However, increasingly, there's the advent of medication abortion. That is the use of medication to terminate pregnancies. This is a WHO recommended method, but it's recommended and very specifically for the right gestational age and right dosage. Anything outside of that perimeter becomes unsafe. Okay? But then, women don't get that information by the time they're getting the drugs, because they're getting the drugs in the cover of the night. Okay? They're sold through a chain of networks. So I'm the one who needs an abortion. But I'll not go to the pharmacy direct to get the medication. So I'll contact you, you contact her, she contacts someone else. Now you've gotten a way of getting one. He'll ask, okay, bring 5,000, send. They send you 2 pills. No information, no one tested you, how old is your pregnancy, no one asked you whether even sure you're pregnant, you suspect you're pregnant, so you are taking the medication. Maybe by the time I got you and then you got someone, it's 3 months down the line, the dosage should be different. But no one gives that information. So at the end of the day, women end up with incomplete abortions that sometimes, or complete abortions, but with severe complications that rupture, the cervix or punctures the cervix. Because again, these medications are supposed to trigger contractions. So yeah, sometimes it can lead to other complications if you overdose again. So there's a lot of care and attention that needs to be given to the dosage.
So what needs to change? APRC's research is a wake-up call. It's not just about numbers, it's about real people facing tough choices in silence. The report urges the government and health stakeholders to rethink how abortion is approached in the country. That includes better policies, more open education about reproductive health.
There's this thing that is mostly demonized, comprehensive sexuality education that is age appropriate, that is given in dosage that is appropriate and relevant and is culturally sensitive is very important, because a boy at the age of maybe 7 or 8 is oriented to, oh, okay, you're a boy, this is his private parts, this is how you should handle ladies, this is how you respect them. Girls too, this is how you should be respected, this is your space, no one should touch you here, no one should do this to you, you should know about this. At some age, maybe age 12, as they get into puberty, there's of course curiosity, they're getting into adolescence. These are your your features. You have your body changing, its nature in different ways. That is okay. However, now this is how you interact with boys. This is, constructive ways of operating.
In the end, the research helps us to see the real picture, and that abortion in Kenya isn't rare.
It's important that we still don't avoid the law. The law is key. The law, as it is in Kenya, the 2010 Constitution really did well at expanding the grounds for abortion. However, there's a contradiction with the penal code that still criminalizes. That criminalization imparts a lot of fear among providers, fear among girls and the community. Knowledge on the law is also very poor. So even a girl who is deserving to access safe abortion, such as one who has been raped, it's terribly difficult to actually get that care in time, okay, and legally. So because of all these challenges, there's need to reform the law. Reforming the law to allow for a condition where women who are deserving legally can still access that service without all the barriers that sit on them. Number two is that there's need to pay attention to family planning and contraceptive services so that all women that are deserving, that need them, can access them. And finally, to again avert poor outcomes from unsafe abortion, we have to improve access to post-abortion care. It has tremendously increased already, and kudos to Ministry of Health, but there's much more that needs to be done.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Unsafe abortion isn't just a medical term. It's a dangerous reality for many women. According to the World Health Organization, it's when a pregnancy is ended by someone without proper training or in a place that doesn't meet basic medical standards. Dr. Simon Mweke is an obstetrician gynecologist, and he explains.
So any pregnancy loss beyond 20 weeks of pregnancy is actually a premature or mature pregnancy loss. Any pregnancy loss that occurs in less than 21 weeks or up to 20 weeks, during which we expect the fetus to be about 500 grams, and we expect it to move over to viability. About 20 weeks is what we call an abortion. Safe abortion is the process of abortion that occurs in an environment that is safe. And the safety here has something to do with the one who is conducting the process, so must be trained. The other one is the instruments or the means of procuring the abortion. The instruments they use, the things they use, whether antiseptic, they are the ones that are recommended, okay? That do not endanger the life of the woman. So unsafe abortion, therefore, is any abortion process that is undertaken outside what I have already described.
In Kenya and many other developing countries, unsafe abortions are one of the leading causes of maternal deaths. Women who go through unsafe procedures often face serious health problems.
The commonest is abnormal bleeding. And we all know that abnormal bleeding can lead to organ failure and death. Okay? And when you have a uterine perforation, usually the woman or whoever was assisting her may have used an unsterile piece of either instrument or whatever it is, stick or those knitting needles or whatever it is. And so, because of course they are not medical people, they don't know the anatomy of the uterus, so they actually penetrate through the uterus. And they can go and even penetrate the gut, or even some of the blood vessels inside the abdomen, to the extent that the woman may bleed from within the abdomen until they die. And pelvic abscess is a terrible condition, because you can imagine opening somebody's abdomen because of an abdominal mass, and then you suck out 5 liters of pus from somebody's abdomen. It can be terrible, and by that time it will have messed up the tubes and sometimes even the ovaries. So that in the long term you may have the problem of tubal blockage and subsequent infertility. The rhesus factor, which when fetal blood crosses into the mother during the abortion process, the mother's immunity develops what we call antibodies against the red blood cells. And usually those antibodies cross through the placenta into the fetus, but in the next pregnancy now, not the one that she has lost. Those are the ones which damage the blood of the fetus in the next pregnancies.
So how do we prevent unsafe abortion in the first place? Better access to contraceptives, because when people can plan if and when to have children, there's less chance of facing an unplanned pregnancy and, by extension, the need for an abortion.
If it were possible to achieve 100% contraceptive use, what we call contraceptive prevalence rate, which is very difficult in an African society. If we could reach that high level of use, then I can assure you the issues of unwanted pregnancies and, of course, abortions, induced abortions, would be zero.
Having the right information about contraceptives matters. More and more young women are misusing the P2, that is Postino 2 emergency contraceptive pill, by taking it like regular birth control, which is definitely not meant for it. Using P2 too often can make the pill less effective when you really need it.
It is called P2 because it's a progesterone pill, and there are usually 2 tablets, okay? And you take them 12 hours apart. And usually a woman has up to 72 hours to use the emergency pill. And the bit that they are not told is you don't use it and continue having sex. So once you have had the unprotected episode when you are fertile, and then you have remembered, then you use the e-pill within those 3 days, and you don't engage into sex again until you see your periods. That's how it's used. But that bit is usually not said. There's a guideline that says you should not use more than 6 times in a year. So that's what's recommended, not more than 6 times in a year. That way, it will not affect your systems. And the reason is because it's a high-dose progesterone pill. which once you've taken those 2 doses, it would definitely disrupt your hormonal balance, such that if you are expecting your period on a Saturday, it might be delayed or even come earlier. So it biologically disrupts your cycle. It may suppress your ovaries to a level where you can't even, or it may initiate infertility because of hormonal imbalance in you as a woman.
No method is perfect. Most contraceptives are safe, but they can also come with some side effects.
We advise that if you cannot do without sex, then you have an option of using contraception. Contraception will avoid pregnancy. But we know of the barrier methods, which also have a second benefit. In spite of their contraceptive failure rate being high, but they have a chance of preventing infections, sexually transmitted infections, including the bad one called HIV.
Most side effects are manageable and go away over time. The key is finding what works for you with the help from a qualified healthcare provider. And as always, we give you health tips on our good practice, and today we focus on reproductive health. There are many different types of contraception, but not all types are appropriate for all situations. The most appropriate method of birth control depends on an individual's overall health, age, frequency of sexual activity, number of sexual partners, desire to have children in the future, and family history of certain diseases. An intrauterine device, IUD, also known as intrauterine system, IUS, is a small T-shaped device inserted into the uterus to prevent pregnancy. It releases a progestin hormone into the uterus that causes thickening of the cervical mucus and inhibits sperm from reaching or fertilizing the egg. Implants are implantable rods. Each rod is matchstick size, inserted under the skin of the woman's upper arm. Short-acting hormonal methods use hormones to regulate or stop ovulation and prevent pregnancy. They include daily pills, skin patches, vaginal rings, and injectable birth control. Barrier methods are designed to prevent sperm from entering the uterus and may be an option for women who cannot use hormonal methods of contraception. These are the male and the female condoms. Sterilization is a permanent form of birth control that either prevents a woman from getting pregnant or prevents a man from releasing sperm. Tubal ligation is a surgical procedure in which the doctor cuts, ties, or seals the fallopian tubes. And vasectomy blocks the path between the testes and the urethra so the sperm cannot leave the testes and cannot reach the egg. We've come to the end of the program. Thank you so much for watching and interacting with us. My name is Marie Yambo, and on behalf of everyone who made this program possible, the production team, and definitely our guests for their insights and also sharing their life stories. My name is Marie Yambo, and if you've missed any part of this program, you can always catch it on our YouTube channel. See you again next time.